Hello, welcome to Breakfast Central. It's a brand new week and we're very excited to have you join us. This is Breakfast Central. We bring you in-depth analysis of all the biggest stories making the rounds in the country and we dissect them for you. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. We're ready to kick off a brand new week with our usual lineup. I am Benga Borowa.
And I'm Joe Hansen. It's Monday. It's been a very terrific weekend. Started off from Thursday all the way to Friday. And then Saturday and Sunday, we also had a lot of issues back and forth, especially with the current state of insecurity in the land. But we can say that, have we made great strides? Absolutely, yes.
Yes.
It's a conversation
but it's not where we want to, because the president released a statement yesterday on his X account.
Absolutely.
Talking about the good news of the 53, I believe, that were kidnapped in Kwara State. They have been, they have been, I don't even, I'm looking for the right word to use.
50, yeah. They said they escaped.
They recovered.
Then they recovered some. They rescued. There was some. So don't worry, we'll go into that story. But then again, let's just welcome our viewers. It's a conversation we're going to go into today. So we're saying good morning and thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget, you can drop a comment or two on our social media platforms. We're streaming live on YouTube, so feel free to drop one or two comments here and there, and let's get this conversation on the road. Olive Emodi will be joining us. She didn't have a situation this morning. Flat tire, but unfortunately she couldn't make it, but she will be joining us pretty soon in the course of the conversation and the program. Well, where do we start from? Let's start off from one of our flagship programs that's here on News Central. It's got to do with Politics HQ, and I bet you know that program, 8 p.m. Monday through to Friday. And Dakbo Adeboye does a great job there, speaking with some of the very interesting personalities and guests. But this time, he decided to leave the studio and decided to take it outside of the studio to speak with someone very important regarding the insecurity and the state of insecurity within the Southwest, and not forgetting to not too far off from what people are talking about, which is when will the spate of insecurity stop? But let's look at this. Nigeria's faced a terrifying week, by the way, of insecurity between November 16 and 21. We can tell you that 7 major attacks has happened between that timeline, 16 to 21. Seven major attacks. Brigadier General Uba and 3 soldiers were killed in Borno, remember? 64 civilians abducted in Zamfara, 25 students and their principal kidnapped in Kebbi, 52 students taken in Niger, and 38 worshippers abducted in Kwara. Well, on Politics HQ News Central TV, Gani Adams warned that bandits have now infiltrated the Southwest. Now, the Kebbi governor questioned why troops left the school just 30 minutes before the attack, while Minister of Defense Bello Matawalle faced public criticism. President Tinubu announced that the 38 CAC church members have been released, brief in relief, though questions remain about how it was achieved. Benga, did they pay for ransom? Was it a non-kinetic approach like we usually hear?
Yeah. And it's very important that we get answers, because if they pay for it, they're only fueling the cycle and the industry of kidnapping. But I hope that's not the situation. But we're happy that they've reunited their family, and we hope that things get better. But on the story of the former OPC leader and the Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò of Yoruba land, Mr. Gani Adams. Let's take a listen to excerpts of that interview with Dapo Adeboye.
Tuesday. And what is the reason behind that press conference? We got an information on a very serious authority that we have been highly infiltrated in the Southwest.
There is already an infiltration.
Infiltration.
By who?
By these terrorists in most of the communities in Yoruba land. You know, Kogi and Kwara, just like a buffer zones to Southwest. And what they are doing in Kogi and Kwara is just a test of ground to start the major attacks in the southwest. The information in our disposal is that they want to attack Oyo, Ekiti, Ondo, and Lagos State.
Interesting revelation there. And he says the north central states of Kogi and Kwara are like a buffer zone, and the information that is getting through his intelligence network is that they plan to attack Oyo and Ekiti states. But I mean, you take this sort of news with mixed feelings. Knowing the information or having the intelligence is one hand. It means you can act on it and prevent these attacks from happening.
True.
And then the second part is, will they do something exactly? Will something be done about it? And I hope he has channeled this information to the appropriate authorities so they can nip this in the bud. But as of last night, Mr. President met with the IG and some service chiefs, and according to his handlers, they say he's having sleepless nights and is on top of the situation to make sure every single square inch of the territory called the Federal Republic of Nigeria is secured. But we can only, support them in any way we can to put an end to this. It's been an absolutely terrible week, to say the least. Yeah.
Benga, just that maybe as we progress on the show, it is very important that we highlight the southwest zone, especially looking at the map of Nigeria, which we're going to look at in the course of this conversation and see how deep the penetrations concerning the insecurity can get. I mean, I was just analyzing this, looking at my phone as well, and like I said, hopefully as we progress on the show, we're going to have this on the screen for the benefit of every single person who's watching. If you take a look at Kebbi is not too far off. It's just at the top. At the northern parts towards the southwest, if you look at it at the top. And then if you come down, you also have Niger State, not too far off as well. But the thing is, as you continue to come down, you have Kwara. And then Kwara, you have Oyo, okay? And Oyo, not far off, you also have Oshun, you have Ekiti. And then you come down, you have Lagos State. So what we just watched in that exclusive interview. By the way, you can watch that exclusive interview on YouTube, stream it with Takwa Adeboye, and you find out some of the very important statements that were made by Mr. Gani Adams there. And one of the things he said they are buffer zones. I would say that the security operative shouldn't take it with kids' glove when such statements are being made.
And the use of buffer zones means that you can carry out things there, but they are human beings, they're Nigerian citizens there. So the fact that they can attack Kwara, Kogi State, shouldn't be comfortable with anyone in Lagos or in the southwest. And also, we failed to look at the bigger picture. FCT, the seat of power. We oftentimes feel that that's a seat of power. Is highly secure. They're insulated from all the troubles in Nigeria. But we really need to put up that map of Nigeria.
We're going to do that.
Because if you put up the map of Nigeria,
analysis on that
you
today.
see that Nasarawa, Kogi, Benue, hotspots are in close proximity to the FCT. So it's very important.
That's what we're going to
step up.
Yes. So in the course of the show, do want to stay with us. We'll take time to look at this, analyze this. Of course, we'll have some very seasoned guests who will be joining us. But he's not the only one who's talking. Over the weekend, a lot, like we said, had happened, so much. Now, Governor of Borno State also came out to speak concerning the rising spate of insecurity, not just in Kebbi, but also starting to trickle back into Borno State. Now, guess what he said? The governor went on to put out a statement and a video where he said that prayers should be up. They're going to start
praying and fasting.
Praying and fasting, especially for the insecurity in the land. And then again, it makes
a different
one
approach.
Wonder if that is a non-kinetic approach.
Yeah, it's non-kinetic. You just need faith.
The issues.
You need faith, and prayers never hurt anyone. But it depends on your disposition as a person and what you think of the efficacy of the prayers. Will it work? Will it force the bandits to drop their weapons? And some might say that, prayers, the Lord does work in mysterious ways. Because if you do recall, just a few weeks ago, ISWAP and Boko Haram were engaged in a shootout. I think it was around the Lake Chad area. And there was a lot of bloodletting was done. So if you're prayerful and you're one of the security operatives, you'll be wondering that, wow, this is a miracle from heaven for God to pit two enemies of the Nigerian state against each other, Boko Haram on one side and ISWAP. So maybe it was as a result of prayers, who knows? But beyond prayers, we really need to do the needful. I think God has given us the capacity and the intelligence and the resources to deal with the problems that we encounter as human beings, and we just need to be serious and tackle it head on.
Anyway,
well,
talking about
prayers don't hurt anyone. If you want to pray and fast,
but remember that during the time of Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, the former president, prayers was used as a means of fighting the insecurity.
Prayers and guns.
After that,
alongside,
I don't know about
kinetic means.
Kinetic, non-kinetic, and kinetic, but non-kinetic in relation to faith. Aside that, during the time of the late President Muhammadu Buhari, prayers were being used as a means to ensure that they chase this. I don't know if this would actually work. I'm not here to tell if it's going to actually end the crisis, but
even America does use prayers. They say, God bless America, one nation under God, and things like that. So faith plays an important role in human beings. If it works or not, that's a different issue.
Okay, let's get to see some of the messages that were dropped as well. We do have a video we'll also like to show to you concerning the Borno State governor while he made that statement. But let's take a look at it.
People state, we believe our security strategies must be underpinned by prayers. I hereby declare Monday, 24th November 2025 as a statewide day of fasting and prayer for the restoration of peace in Borno State and the country in general. On this day, I call upon every resident of Borno State, regardless of faith, to join in prayer for the lasting peace and prosperity of our beloved state and Nigeria. Consequently, let us therefore devote ourselves to constant prayers, seeking Almighty God's mercy. I also urge the people to use this period to pray for divine protection against evildoers, saboteurs, and all enemies of peace. Finally, let me assure you that we will continue to invest in the welfare of our security forces, support community-based vigilance, and pursue dialogue where possible without compromising the state's integrity or the safety of our people. Thank you.
All right, there you have the president of Borno State there, His Excellency, calling for prayers from every single person, every single indigenous of this state, the governor of Borno State, I beg your pardon. But the governor also, while speaking, remember that a few months ago he had decided to lace up his boots and join the soldiers on the front line to follow through and find out what's really causing the insecurity in Borno State. It seems like that exercise did not really yield 100% fruit, but rather it was able to yield at least some form of perception, understanding, target, goals, you name it, whatever it is.
I think it does a lot for the morale of the troops. To assess, to have a first-hand assessment of situation on the front line. So if he's making requests to the federal government in Abuja, he can make a case of being the chief security officer of the state. Babagana Zulum, professor, is a very hands-on governor. He's very passionate about his people. His background is in the academic. So for him to, to say, look, it's time for prayers, it also reveals deeper worrying trends that, look, this might be beyond us as human beings. Or, I mean, this is just my interpretation. We need to call God to intercede on our behalf and, give us the guide and, just divine intervention at this point from what he has said. But we cannot afford, I mean, the Nigerian state is bigger. We have the Nigerian Army, Navy, Air Force, Intelligence Services, the NSCDC. We have different paramilitary organizations to allow our country to allow terrorists to dictate the narrative for us. And Nigeria has become quite worrying. There's a Bosnian saying that may your house not be shown on CNN. I mean, it's shows ominous signs that dark clouds are hanging. But I do believe that Nigeria will prevail, and light will prevail over darkness, and we'll overcome this. If you look at the history of nations, they've gone through one sort of turmoil or the other. So we need to give the government the necessary support, and the government also needs to show capacity and honesty in dealing with this.
Talking of showing capacity, well, it seems like maybe the prayers are starting to work already, because the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, announced the release of victims in a tweet that he put out yesterday on X, formerly known as Twitter. He went on to put out this statement and said, "My fellow Nigerians, you will recall that I cancelled my trip to the G20 summit in South Africa, which ended this weekend, by the way, to enable me coordinate the security efforts at home. Thanks to the efforts of our security forces over the last few days, all the 38 worshippers abducted in Eruku, Kwara State, have been rescued. I'm equally happy that 51 out of the missing students of the Catholic school in Niger State have been recovered. I am closely monitoring the security situation nationwide and receiving continuous updates from the front line. Let me be clear." I think that's the President's best statement. I always see, he always uses that. Let me be clear. Now, let me be clear. I will not relent. Every Nigerian in every state has a right to safety, and under my watch, we will secure this nation and protect our people. Of course, he goes on to sign that statement there. So, apart from saying that maybe the prayers are working, or maybe it seems like the battle line has been drawn between Nigeria's security operatives and forces against the angry and inhuman, you could say, assailants, or you better still just call them what they are, terrorists, it's starting to yield fruit. So, but there's one big question everyone is asking. You did have 38 congregants who were released, as it were, from the
rescued, according to the president's
recovered
statement.
And words like
the recovered was for 51. Rescued was for
So I'm
Kwara.
tying all of them together. How were they rescued?
Okay.
How were they recovered? Now, Bing, I'm coming.
Yes.
I just want to highlight one thing. If you go to the United States, okay, usually the United States will boast of its strength.
Yeah,
and
SEAL
power.
Team 6 was sent to Abbottabad to
There you
kill
go.
Osama bin
There you
Laden.
go.
His body was buried
There
in the
you
sea.
go. And they highlight all
they
of
give you
that.
details.
They give you details.
Timelines.
So we as journalists, when we put these things down, when we read the information online, we're more peculiar with, okay, how was it done? And the United States is even more, I would say, emboldened to put this into a movie, produce it into a documentary, and let you know that, listen, this is what we are. It shows strength, it shows
Exactly,
power.
it's a projection
And it
of strength and
pushes
power.
a message out to
But
whoever it is.
just the mere questioning, how did this happen? There's pushback. Journalists are doing their jobs. Our job is how did they will tell you that, are you not happy that they've been rescued? What kind of question are you
is that?
asking? That you should be celebrating the fact that they've been rescued. How they got out, it shouldn't be of your business. And it's wrong. We need to really change that. Thanks for highlighting.
Yeah, I mean, but
that
let's see
message.
one of the victims that were kidnapped, was kidnapped. Let's see what they have to say, and possibly let's also get to hear from them as well from the videos.
The government and people of Kwara State, thank President Bola Tinubu for his hands-on approach to bringing them back up. You can see the moment of the G20 festival, pay attention to this. You can't say what it is.
After like 30 minutes of the program, we start the program by 15 minutes of the program. After all the things, just left gunshot. Even to my own perspective, I didn't know it was gunshot. I think it was just sparkling of some wire. But by the time we get, they surrounded the whole church. Even some people, they begin to narrate that they are seeing drop of blood everywhere.
Now, from that Tuesday to today when you are released, what is the situation right there inside the bush?
was unimaginable because when we got there, we really know that it was a dominated area by these people bandits. Even they have the courage to tell themselves that we are bandits, and they make us know that there's no one that can just sleep away without being caught. And with what we see, nobody can escape. From that, they have dominated. They knew all the routes surrounding all those bushes in Kwara and other states.
David, Olúwafẹ́mi Ajayoba, Ọ̀gá of the DCC, the Lord.
With the release of the captives, how do you feel today, sir?
On behalf of the CAC President, the General Evangelist of Christ Apostolic Church, and the authority of the church, even the regional superintendents, we are so glad to see our people back live, and we appreciate the governor of the state. We appreciate everybody for this great job. One of the authorities of the welcoming. We thank God of Christ Apostolic Church.
Must first of all apologize for the poor audio quality in some of that footage that you just watched, but there you have it, the governor of the state and some of the victims who have regained freedom speaking about what they saw. It's quite a situation nobody would want to be in because
Absolutely.
the trauma. I saw a
Yeah.
video this yesterday/this morning of a victim who sadly had mentioned that while she was kidnapped, she was raped multiple times by some of these bandits, and it brought chills. I can still feel goosebumps in my body, you know. It brought chills
You'll
down
never
my
wish
spine.
that on
and
your
she was
worst
crying.
enemy.
She said she had to leave the country completely to see if she could start a new life. But even at that, she struggles with nightmares and everything. Nobody should go through that.
Absolutely, nobody
at
should go through
Nobody.
that. And I'm hoping that now that these victims have been recovered and they've regained their freedom, the police authorities would and the intelligence services would do a proper debrief so they can, you know, pinpoint intelligence, location, and find out more information that will help them deal decisively. Because it's one thing to commit a crime. They're not just going to say because the victims have been rescued that the perpetrators of this act should be allowed to go scot-free. No, justice has to be served, and they need to go into those those that the hinterland and destroy their camps and get them arrested if possible, and deal decisively with this. But that's not all. Nigeria is still in the spotlight internationally. You do recall that last week the United States Senate did have a briefing on the designation of Nigeria as a country of particular concern, and it's still enjoying wall-to-wall coverage, albeit negative coverage. This is not the type of attention Nigeria needs in this time of our nationhood. President Trump, while speaking, did release a statement. I think it was in a radio interview.
Yeah.
And he
with
says,
the BBC or something,
yes, and that's the statement there. It says, I think Nigeria is a disgrace. The whole thing is a disgrace. They're killing people by thousands. It's a genocide, and I'm really angry about it. And we pray, we give another subsidy to Nigeria. We're going to end up stopping. The government's done nothing. They are very ineffective. They are killing Christians at will, and until I got involved in it 2 weeks ago, nobody even talked about it. Just President Trump. So, I mean, it's just... and let's also mention that there are back-channel negotiations that are happening. There's been talks between the United States government and the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Just last week, the National Security Advisor of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Malam Nuhu Ribadu, did meet with the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, at the Department of War. I'm sure so much progress would have happened. I did see the tweet that the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, put out on talks with the Nigerian security, NSA, with the National Security Advisors. So hopefully we'll make some progress from there.
Well, the conversation continues, and you can still be part of it. That's what we're saying. So feel free to join us, drop a comment or two on all socials. We're streaming live, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and the likes, and let us know what your thoughts are. By the way, you did also, let's also highlight very quickly to you that the conversation about Nigeria's insecurity is a continuous one. And here on News Central's Breakfast Central, recall that some schools have been shot in different parts, especially in the northern region, and not forgetting to in areas that have been highly affected by the recent insecurity crisis. News Central will have our men on ground with their boots laced up, going from door to door, and also finding out what neighbors are actually saying, plus what the students equally will be saying. There you have it, the Federal Ministry of Education, closure of 47 schools at federal unity colleges. This statement did come over the weekend as well, not quite long. On the 21st of December 2025, this dated is another question that people had asked. But then again, it went on to talk about the closure of schools, and many also had pointed to the date and said, we don't understand what's going on. We're in November. Why do you have December up there? And this brought a lot of questions. But then again, there was a back and forth as well, where they had said they never said they were going to shut down schools. But then again, the governors of the state came out to say, we are the governors. We say the schools should be shut down. Then you had parents rushing to go grab their children from school. I mean, from boarding school, see children carrying their boxes on their head. Everybody's running away. If I were a parent, what would I do?
Of course, it's the life first. Educate, they can always get other schools.
Come on.
Because, I mean, the government has shown that they don't have the capacity to secure all schools. And I believe this was the right move. But then again, it talks about our ability to, just adapt to a situation. I've started seeing adverts of buses, bulletproof buses, to transport people during the Yuletide season. And it's terrible. Instead of facing a problem head on, we'd rather make excuses or adjust our life while the problem thrives.
One state that has also led the call for the closure of schools is Niger State. Well, let's take a look at this video and see what the governor said as we look forward to wrap up Wake Up Conversation this morning.
Nigeria is the only country we have, and Niger State is our state. As such, we must continue as government to protect the lives and properties of our citizens. In this decision, stakeholders today have decided to close all schools in Niger State. Private, primary and secondary schools, missionary schools, Islamic schools, federal government college winner. All federal government colleges are already regulated by federal government.
Well,
and this will be, it'll be disruptive to the learning process of the children, the academic calendar, because I believe they should be closing for the end of the year holidays in about 3 weeks, and I wonder how they will adjust. But look, all that, the human life is
more important than all of that when it comes to that, because if there's no life or there are no lives, who would attend the schools? And there you have the parents going there to pick their children, no time, Binga. And that's exactly what should be noted. But then again,
and it will put their mind at ease that, getting reports every other day that there's this kidnapping here and there. So it would bring some relief to some of the parents. I'm sure some of them have actually might have been planning to take their kids out of the schools before the announcement was made.
That's right. Well, one man has been talking, and he's been talking tough. He happens to be not just on social media. Many have tagged him a critique of the federal government, but he says he's just one who wants a better future for Nigeria. He joins us here at 7:30, just around, it's about to start now, so make sure you stick around because that's where we're going to next. In the meantime, who told the military to leave the position or leave their spaces or their places right before the attack happened in Kebbi? The Kebbi State Governor is also asking. We'll take a look at the map of Nigeria and look at the significance of why insecurity should be dealt a major blow. Stay with us here on Breakfast Central, but let's bring to you the top stories for today on a Monday morning. Monday morning on Breakfast Central, we'll be analyzing National Assembly's role in combating insecurity, a big conversation that must be had. Concerns mount over school children's safety in northern Nigeria.
And also antimicrobial resistance. Experts warn of rising deaths in Nigeria We'll also bring you Which Way Nigeria, and we will be analysing the front pages of the newspaper, where you can call in and share your thoughts with us on the biggest stories. Do stay with us. Breakfast Central continues shortly.
You're welcome back to Breakfast Central. Thank you very much for joining us. It's good to be back here this week on Breakfast Central. We can see the comments on YouTube. I can see Joshua Okparanze, who's asking what the background story is behind the release of the rescue of the kidnapped victims. He says, was ransom paid, or did the bandits just wake up on the right side of the bed and decide to release the victims? Well, we'll be looking more into the issues of insecurity and seeing what role the National Assembly has to play in all of this. Insecurity, economic stagnation, and social dislocation have become the defining headlines, particularly from the northern part of the country in the past few weeks. But Nigeria's Deputy Senate President, Senator Barau Jibrin, says the problems confronting the north are surmountable. He made this bold assertion at the 25th anniversary of the Arewa Consultative Forum in Kaduna. According to him, the region has the capacity, leadership, and resources to overcome its challenges. But is that optimism grounded in reality? Now, joining us for today's discussion is human rights activist Peter Aka. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, lady. We appreciate you using Breakfast Central as your first port of call at a brand new week. So it means great things will happen this week.
Very great things. Thank you.
Okay, let's get into the role that the National Assembly has to play. But first of all, let's start with your reaction. Last week, we talked about the U.S. Congress.
Yes.
Sitting and talking about our insecurity issues. Yes. And the question was, have our own National Assembly done a corresponding, paid corresponding attention to our problems regarding insecurity? So how would you rate our National Assembly in terms of how they fared in that regard?
I think it's a monumental tragedy. It's a failure and it's an unfortunate scenario, the events of the past few days. And anybody who is a public office holder, especially the parliament, should be thoroughly ashamed of themselves. This is an indictment of leadership in the country. It is almost the absence of leadership, or leadership that is complicit in the misfortunes of its people. Aside the US sitting down to discuss Nigeria's security for more than 3 hours, grilling its own officials, the incidents in the country that have happened within the last few days call for deep introspection on why we spend the kind of money we spend servicing the lives of lawmakers who, in a time of tragedy, will rather choose to attend a defection party of a politician rather than sit to talk about the issues. To begin with, we have seen issues of the Kebbi State governor complaining about, intelligence that was given to military that was not used, and somehow military officers, security was taken out, and then somebody went there to take out some children. We heard the story from the former governor of Kaduna State accusing the current government of spending 1 billion naira on terrorists or bandits. The National Security Advisor in 2024 admitted that the weapons that are used to kill Nigerians in Plateau and other parts of the country are weapons that were stolen from government armory. Yet that same National Security Advisor has a policy, according to the former governor of Kaduna State, where there is a government policy on appeasing of terrorists, of payments of certain monies to those persons. And then there is an video interview of Dr. Usman Kofi from Katsina of when a ACP, Commissioner of Police in Katsina State, who was taking the fight to bandits, was killed by one of the bandits factions. And the leader of one of the factions, who they call Jankari, gave an instruction to the government on their so-called unfortunate peace deals that the police officers should not come in their official uniforms. But the bandit came with the uniform of the slain police officer to those so-called peace meetings. And it was not, or it is not a point of call for the National Assembly to call for an extraordinary session, begin to review what exactly is going on with these so-called peace interventions, what exactly is the level of infiltration we have between insecurity officials and security officials. Because as it is today now, Nigeria is sharing its sovereignty with known terrorists that are supposed to be known to government. So it is either of two things. It is either the terrorists have overwhelmed government, or they have a political wing in government aiding and abetting this.
Very important and salient points you just raised. And the National Assembly is not here for right of reply. But I do say that in the course of our duty, we did hear, or they brought up this idea of having a security retreat. And our analysts did condemn that, saying, look, it's just going to be a talk shop. That's not what you need. And also the clips of Mr. Senate President saying, who am I to respond to Donald Trump? Just to give that background. The Deputy Senate President says that the problems of the North are surmountable. But when you see that the Mr. President is giving marching orders to the Minister of State for Defense, Bello Matawale, to move to Kebbi and rescue those kids, and then he arrives in Kebbi with a private jet, and he's inspecting a guard of honor, full red carpet display, no sense of urgency, ceremonial pomp and pageantry. Does that show you the body language of a country that wants to deal with this clear and present danger, or any sense of urgency or optics? Do they even pay attention to the optics? And that's the highest level of our security architecture.
I think at this point, Nigeria should be wondering, everyone is in trouble, and Nigeria needs a quick reset. What qualifies this person to be Minister for Defense? This person we call Minister for Defense, Minister for State Defense. Bello Matawale, he's the former governor of Zamfara State. The Minister for Defense is Mohammed Abubakar Badaru, the former governor of Jigawa State. What in their backgrounds give them the capacity to lead these ministries, especially at a time like this? I mean, this particular person who is, Minister for State Defense had his state almost overrun by terrorists as a governor. It was part of why he failed hopelessly in being re-elected into the state house as a governor. And the president shopped around. And when you ask, they will say, oh, they have had ministers of defense who were military persons, but it did not make a difference. Then the question will be, so if you have tried many doctors and it did not work, so you should probably employ a carpenter. So that is where Nigeria is. So if you look at the body language of the president, the question will be, does the president understand the implication of security to the well-being of the nation? That is the primary responsibility of every government, to protect life and property. Look at the kind of security and the kind of pomp and circumstance that a Minister of Defense, who is going to a state where children were abducted, this is what our public office. So we spend money, government will create a problem, pretend to be solving the problem, and in that pretense in solving the problem, even use more of taxpayer money for their own good. So across board, it is just a show of recklessness and irresponsibility. And the painful part, or the unfortunate part, is Nigerians or innocent lives are paying for these decisions or inactions.
All right. I mean, you've been tagged as the voice of conscience for Nigerians, especially the youths, in terms of what's going on in the National Assembly. Can we rightly say that the reform bill that you've also been pushing has been put on hold right now, and the focus has been on insecurity? How do you think this would in any way derail the chances of having a reform bill? Because whether we like it or not, lives are more important.
Yes.
But are you certain that this would not last longer into 2026, therefore affecting whatever electoral reforms that is being pushed?
Sir, what stops or what makes it impossible for everything to run concurrently? What is the job of the National Assembly? Lawmaking. This is why we spend more than 350 billion servicing the lives of 109 senators and 360 House of Reps members. In the US, when you see that there is a crisis or insane crimes where public office holders know that they are beholden to the people, people are ready to work extra time. The National Assembly can decide to meet on Saturday and Sunday, then decide the allowances that they take. So there is no part in taking one and leaving the other, because the risk is that in the spite of all of the tragedy that is going on, do not think that Nigerian politicians are not still ready to rig themselves back into power in 2027. So in fact, the major focus on holding accountable these persons is to ensure that by 2027, if you cannot change or get the persons who are there to do the right thing, then change them to get people who are efficient. So we must put our eye on the ball. How many days does it take for you to summon or have a hearing on insecurity? How long does it take to invite service chiefs to have an overhaul of the architecture of the Nigerian security? How long does it take? It is all planned because there is no political will to solving these problems. So you see it continue to drag. How many hours did it take for the US Congress to sit and talk about Nigeria's insecurity? So will they not move to other things? They had a government shutdown recently. They have issues of Medicare and all of that is going on in the US, and it holds concurrently. But in Nigeria, it is like Z world. It is extraordinary every day.
One thing at a time.
You caught me off guard with this Z world reference. But if you say that the National Assembly, that what they've done so far can be referred to as a monumental failure.
Yes.
When we talk about checks and balances, each of the arm of government should check the powers and the excesses of the others. So the executive, the judiciary, the legislature. Who then holds this legislative arm to account?
The people who are supposed to hold them accountable, it is almost impossible to do because that framework is not there. Where is the recall process for National Assembly members? The last time we saw a recall was when they were trying to, Senator Natasha, where within 2 days they gathered more than 200,000 votes. Meanwhile, the votes that took the woman there were less than 60 or 70,000. Meaning it is easier to recall in Kogi than to vote and choose your leader. So unfortunately, it does not even matter the other arms. The National Assembly is the institution that has the principal right to oversight. But unfortunately, the current 10th National Assembly has been converted into an APC town hall, where you see when the president goes to present his budget, the person who leads the chant upon their mandate they shall fall is the Senate leadership. So you see an institution that is supposed to, when the Senate president came at first, he was brandishing the cap that carried the insignia of the president, the executive arm of government. It was when there was public outcry, they had to pretend to take it out. And when the president came, and guess what was the president's response? You all are re-elected. That was what the president said. A group of persons who have a country that is in extreme and multi-dimensional poverty, where sovereignty is shared between commander-in-chief and terrorists. And you see lawmakers sitting down, interested in more of partying. If this government has invested the time they used in politicking, trying to put every governor or politician into turning Nigeria to a one-party state, if the president and the government invested half of that time into security, they would have done better.
I want us to talk, let's veer off a little, now that you've mentioned this on your mandate to stand, because every time when you bring it up, it feels like we're making too much noise about something that shouldn't be a big deal. Recently, at the
judicial,
the body of benches inauguration, right? When they were having that event, the On Your Mandate We Shall Stand anthem was being sung as opposed to the national anthem, and the judges were being attacked for rising. And I remember saying here that what did you expect the judges to do? If the president comes in, there's no way they will be sitting. It is the army, the music team in charge of the day, the band,
the brigade of guards.
Yes, they were the ones that played that. So who should be responsible, especially because this has been a constant conversation? Do you think maybe the president addressed this, or the Bayo Onanuga or those within his team, his SSAs, give a firm order that in public events only the national anthem should be sung?
The box falls squarely at the president's desk. President Tinubu should look himself in the mirror and ask if he is more interested in politics or governance. What exactly is that anthem that is sung to the president at whatever function? Does that replace the country's anthem? They changed the former anthem within a space of how many hours to a new anthem? We thought they were so beholden to the anthem. So how come a political campaign song replaces a leader's entrance even while governance? There should be a time for politics and there should be a time for governance. All of the issues that are going on today are not 1/10 of what happened under the Jonathan administration, where the same President Tinubu called for his resignation. He said the buck stops at the president table. This calls into question the capacity of Jonathan to govern or to protect the lives of citizens. Look at President Tinubu. We thought immediately he took power, he would teach Jonathan how it should be done. This is where we are today, where the governor of the home state of the vice president is declaring prayer and fasting for terrorists. Borno State Governor Babagana Zulum, having spent billions in servicing terrorists and in trying to see how they can get peace deals. In 2025, the governor of a state is declaring fasting and prayer. Maybe they should also involve NSPPD. They can also involve any other day experience. They can also attend to see how they can get people, you know, to handle this issue of insecurity.
You're
Since
right.
it is more spiritual than we think.
Does not exist. Let's talk about, I would like our producers to put up the tweet looking at the president's statement rather on the release of on the recovery or release otherwise, depending on which context of the school children that were released. There you go. That's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's statement. It says, my fellow Nigerians, you will recall that I cancelled my trip to the G20 summit in South Africa to enable me coordinate the security efforts at home. That reeks of, you know, it deserves a round of applause, and you need to appreciate me for that. Thanks to the efforts of our security forces over the last few days, all 38 worshippers abducted in Eruku, Kwara State have been rescued. That's one. Security forces, one. I'm equally happy that 51 out of the missing students of the Catholic school in Niger State have been recovered. I'm closely monitoring this security situation nationwide and receiving continuous updates from the front.
Before you go ahead, just to confirm, how many of the missing students? We don't have
exactly
the out of the missing students.
I mean, the Catholic, there was a statement yesterday that they're about 300, and that was missing in the president's statement. So it's not yet Uhuru. We still have a number, quite a huge number of students that are still in the den of kidnappers. My question to you, Peter, is do we deserve to know how this rescues happened, or we're asking too much as Nigerians? So if a ransom payment has been made, if it was coordinated security efforts, do we have a right to know the details as Nigerians?
You know, as a citizen watching this statement from my commander-in-chief, I feel more despondent. I feel it is more unfortunate than for someone to even rejoice over. The first line talking about not going for the G20 summit, the question would be, what was Mr. President going to do at the G20 summit? What has all the foreign trips between 2023 and today, what has it brought to Nigeria? If we do not have anything that, you know, brings value to the country, I think the government of the day should sit back at home and fix this country. Secondly, we talked about what is the meaning of that statement or that line where they say the 51 children from Niger have been recovered. What is recovery? Because they can't put out a statement and say they escaped. President said they were recovered, like missing items that were found somewhere. I don't know this kind of calisthenics with government. How many exactly were the children that were taken from Niger State?
It's missing in that statement.
How many of them are missing in this statement? The so-called, you know, release of the persons or captives from Kwara State, what exactly went on? Imagine hearing a statement from the president where your commander-in-chief tells you that in the operation to release these 38 people, we had so brigade of, you know, command led by this person who took the fight to these persons. They suppressed or neutralized the persons and were able to gallantly take back our citizens.
Said it this morning.
Imagine the pride with which you will listen or read such information.
Project strength.
Project strength and capacity. That is what the US president will do when he says that their military will go in here at a time and place that is convenient to them.
So does this infer maybe that there might have been some deals that were not had?
That is the problem, because if that kind of statement is not clearly spelled out on what went out, it might seem that we have even more problem or questions to answer. Was money paid for this? Are we still trying to refinance or strengthen the capacity of this same? Look at what terrorists are doing on social media. Within the last few days, have you looked at the social media space? TikTok. I think that Nigerians, almost everywhere, meaning Nigeria, apart from politicians who created the problem and the terrorists, need to go for rehab or some sort of therapy.
We are all traumatized.
Traumatized.
Okay, so now what would we say should be the legislative instrument that the National Assembly should build to hold the executive to account, to make sure that the executive does what it would do? President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in his statement and said that every Nigerian deserves security and he will not relent. He will ensure that he guarantees that. So how should the National Assembly react to this going forward?
When the President Tinubu realized that all Nigerians deserve security, I don't know when he did that anyway, but the actions within the past 2 years, counting going to 3 years, have not proven that they prioritize security. Because part of the problem will be even the National Office of the National Security Advisor. For the first time in a country, it seems like the president outsourced issues of insecurity to the Office of National Security Advisor, and the president is more interested in politicking. I'm wondering why a state of emergency was declared in Rivers State, and up till today, there is no state of emergency in any part of the north. And then when it comes to the 10th National Assembly, I think that this National Assembly is helpless in its own way. It is almost impossible for them to live up to whatever expectation, because every instrument that should be wielded as an institution for oversight has been buried with politicking. Therefore, there is even no bar. The only capacity this National Assembly have is to be money point assembly, to approve loans without inquiry, approve loans without any commensurate investigation. I think the only place that National Assembly have not approved loans for this government is money point and Pampi. You know, because those, you know, when they borrow from, you know, like you borrow from fair money, you clear Kuda. That is what they have the capacity to do. And it's unfortunate. If Nigerians want anything to change, it must become a citizens' movement and a citizen demand. Nigerians, this is an opportunity for everybody that is well-meaning to come together and mobilize. First of all, to know that we need to put pressure to solve the current issue. And by 2027, to liberate ourselves. Because as it is today now, the APC is not just bad government, it is an affliction.
Now, Peter, over the weekend, the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Egbetokun, did issue a statement saying that because of the times we're in, unprecedented times, he's ordered the withdrawal of special protection
that
units
is about the 110
from VIPs, because we find some policemen holding bags, you know, even at the Wadata Plaza the other day, we saw members of the Special Forces Intelligence Response Team. It's just like a Navy SEAL Team 6. They were fighting or preventing people. They were in that picture in the Wadata Plaza. What do you make of this decision, which is coming at the umpteenth? I mean, we've lost count of it. He said that's the withdrawal a few times, like you rightly mentioned, and they've also banned the checkpoints too. So most IGs do that, but the reality is different.
Okay, maybe anybody can run a quick check and go to any government house or any public office holder's office today and know, so that we can do on the spot assessment.
Or celebrity.
Or any celebrity. Because in Nigeria today, even a Yahoo boy, if you have some cash, you can get. We have seen pictures of so-called, you know, whatever, going to public functions, and you can take like 4 or 5 mopo. They will even help you carry your cash, open your bag for you, carry madam's purse and all of that. The question is, is the Nigerian security outfit structured to protect the people or to protect the elite? It is up to all of us to decide exactly what we call, and that is why a time like this calls for deep conversations on what the National Assembly can do. Imagine talking about what exactly state policing should be able to do at this point. Imagine governors coming together to say, is it a time to really have true federalism, for us to decentralize this power and then see how security at the state level or local level can be strengthened? These are the conversations we should have. According to the former IG of police, the late Solomon Arase, out of the about 370 or so thousand police officers we have, more than 200,000 are drafted to protect these persons that the IG is talking about.
So who's left?
Could that be the more reason why the president has also agreed to that these police officers should therefore be moved into the field to protect the people? And by the way, they said they're going to replace them with NSCDC forces, and these ones would have, the ones with rifle will be now switched to protect the elite. Does it make any change? Because if you're going to take the NSCDC officers are also needed to,
they have the role that they play constitutionally. So are we robbing Peter to pay Paul, or what are we trying to make of it? In all of this that is going on, if Nigerians or the Nigerian leadership take issues of insecurity or security seriously, is there no need for an overhaul of the entire security architecture? Instead of talking about pulling these persons from here to come and put here, to pull these persons from here to come and make up for this part of it. I think at all levels, we are just displaying a level of irresponsibility or incapacitation to handle issues, especially with seriousness that they demand.
I mean, Look at the data.
These are the
IGP's ordering
statements
withdrawal
made.
of police from VIP.
Yes.
It feels like every time we have a new IG,
Yes.
the next thing is they're announcing
Is to
the
order withdrawal
of VIP.
Removal of checkpoints.
Yes. We order removal of
And
checkpoints.
nothing ever really happens. You know, we hear these orders, but it just feels like orders that are backed without authority. I want us to now come to this is 2003, Tafa Balogun. These are lists from 2003 to 2023 of IGPs that have ordered withdrawal of police from VIP. Yet, this dirty December, you will see them in full force.
And even
don't go too far.
IGP Egbetokun, the current IG, this is not the first time.
No, each of them, they just put the bullet points. Each of them order those withdrawals at least 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
Each of the IGs, they are just highlighting.
Is it an exercise in futility when you know that these orders will not be carried out?
I don't know, but I also feel that we can also look at it from this aspect. I mean, like I said, you've strongly been what they've tagged as the voice of conscience for the people. Well, let's also look at it. The police officers also need to survive.
Yes.
And according to what is being said, once they are attached, an attaché or so, to an elite, they earn more. They are taking care of more.
Yeah.
I mean, you've seen where even
their uniforms and appearance.
Exactly. The elite who they are attached to, sometimes these ones take up the role of taking care of their own families,
almost all of the
their
time.
school fees of the children and so on and so forth. So this withdrawal alarm that's been sounded again, has the police been able to put things in place that would take care of them?
Yes.
So that they would eventually focus and do the job.
Because they might
good question.
They might be missing those VIP.
That is the statement. Are the officers ready to withdraw?
Good.
The officers who you want to withdraw, are they in the frame of mind to withdraw? When you take somebody from a place where the person is having a fit day, which one is easier? And then again, in all seriousness and with all sense of responsibility, the military is being accused by a sitting governor of having taken an intelligence and somehow compromised on it in Kebbi State. So is it just an issue of moving officers, or there is a fundamental problem within the security agencies itself? What happened with the sabotage? What happened with the investigation from Yelewata? How many meters was a military checkpoint when the persons came in and carried out that massacre? What were the officers who were there said to have done? So if you are moving police from here to, is it what the military could not do that the Nigerian police will do? What exactly are you putting as the framework to ensure that moving them brings efficiency? Is it just moving people?
Exactly.
People who have become very, satisfied with the kind of life they live with, following, that is why an officer can be okay to hold madam's purse or even go to a buffet and take. We saw the video of a former Nigeria's ambassador where her police officer did not only hold her purse, he went to take food on her behalf and brought to serve madam.
They'll even help you wear your sandals.
Adjust whatever, do school runs for you.
Very, very.
So what is the political will to make law enforcement become truly law enforcement?
I want to take the conversation. I want to take the conversation slightly to a slightly different, sensitive area.
Yeah.
As we talk about insecurity, how important is the issue of genocide in the conversation about insecurity, especially as we've seen in the U.S. That was an argument, a huge argument that happened within the U.S. Congress live hearing. Recently, movie director Daniel Etten put out a movie, The Herd. It has caused serious issues on
still ongoing online.
People are arguing. While some are saying this is a reflection of our current reality, and they're applauding him for being bold. There are others who are saying, oh, it's framing the North in a negative light. So it's generated conversation. So how important is that conversation about genocide?
I wish that the northern part of the country would be as angry as they are about these nuances against terrorists themselves than against persons who try to portray whatever picture that is ongoing. If there is look at the hypocrisy in what we are talking about. The US president said, oh, there is a Christian genocide. The Nigerian government, our response was that, look, you are not even saying it as bad as it is so. It's not only Christians. They are killing Muslims, they are killing pagans, traditional, everybody is being killed. The US president said, okay, go fast and take out the terrorists, move quickly. Or we will come guns a-blazing, the statement of President Donald Trump. Now the question will be, if everybody agrees that people are being killed, who has a problem with taking out the killers? So people begin to protest against the US position, not against the persons who you agree that are killing you. There is a fundamental problem with such a system. So whether you want to call it genocide or massacre or whatever it is, do we have a consensus that it should end? And that, so when you now see certain religious leaders or traditional leaders from the part of the north come out to take a position that seems to tacitly give support to the terrorists, then we have more problem than we think we have. We have seen statements from people like Sheikh Gumi and all of them on social media. When you come and tell people how, oh, you see, bandits are just taking children for kidnapping them, not to kill them, but for ransom. That, you know, these people are your brothers and this. Where exactly is the northern rage against terrorism? Where are the northern elites, the northern traditional leaders, religious leaders? Where is the rage against terrorism? Under the Jonathan administration, there were reports that have been verified. Curses were being laid on the government and the president in religious houses. Today, a governor is saying we should declare prayer and fasting for the bandits. The tables have turned. So are we a serious people who value human life? In 2025, we are talking about having peace deal with terrorists, and the people who are drafting the terms and conditions are the terrorists. We cannot be a serious country.
Very important questions you raised. Now, just before we begin to wrap up the conversation, you're one who interfaces with ordinary Nigerians. What would you say to citizens who feel abandoned by their representatives in Abuja that and feel a sense of hopelessness that nothing has been done? Because schools have abruptly closed down. They have, instead of dealing with the issue, they've decided to, you know, withdraw the kids to let them come home because of the incessant insecurity. Senator Ned Munir Nwoko last year introduced a bill in the Nigerian Senate to amend the Firearms Act and allow civilians to own and carry firearms for self-defense. The bill proposes a stringent regulatory framework to ensure only qualified law-abiding citizens can obtain a license. Would you suggest we go this way in terms of self-defense? You look at a country like the United States of America, the gun rights, it's a big deal. It's almost like life and death. Have we reached, if Abuja cannot guarantee the security of my life and my family's life, at least pump action can, do the job?
As good as some of, these kind of ideas may sound, the question will be, imagine a scenario like this, where we are not even able to control small and light arms proliferation, and even the arms, now that it is only restricted to government, this is what we have. Imagine when it is uhuru for everybody, then it becomes survival of the fittest. So you can just wake up and somebody should just wake up and take down about how many persons, because we know that it has become any place where there is no accountability and there is no control.
We're not right for it.
It is lawlessness across board. So for Nigerians who will be feeling hopelessness is not an option of becoming despondent, because being frustrated about a system does not insulate you from being a victim of that system. The persons in Iruku in Kwara State were probably not even paying attention to government. They were in a church. They were having some service, preaching. So you might, where 2 or 3 are gathered, 4 or 5 others will take F-47 can scatter them now. That is where Nigeria has reached. So as Nigerians, we should be thinking of, no matter how long oppression may have lasted over a people, if a majority say enough, it will be enough. And for how long do you fight for freedom if you are under oppression? For as long as it takes. The journey to nationhood or to an egalitarian society is not a sprint, it's a marathon. The problem with Nigeria is that we are always unable to convert pain into passion, to take steps to emancipate ourselves. So when a lot is thrown at us, we become despondent, we become lethargic. It gives opportunity to the political class to continue in their malfeasance.
Or if we're not despondent or lethargic, what we then do is we try to start adjusting.
Yes.
To
and we started adjusting.
Yes.
Have you seen the adverts for travel this dirty December? Highest buses, bulletproof buses.
We are adjusting.
There is no light, you get inverter, get generator. There's no security, employ vigilante. There is now issues of killings, get bulletproof vans. Once you continue to take a second layer of protection for yourself and refuse to hold government accountable, you are
just to wrap things up, the president has said he's listening. And whether we like it or not, he has mentioned that he had to cancel the G20 event just to ensure that he focuses on the insecurity challenges. Yesterday, he had called the service chiefs into a meeting. They all met. It is part of the communique that came out from that meeting that saw the withdrawal of police officers who are attached to VIPs. But I want us to see a video. Let's see what the Chief of Army Staff also had to say about that meeting they had yesterday. Very, very insightful. But let's get to watch.
Yeah, thank you very much. If you recall what the happenings in our country currently, and the fact that Mr. President actually cancelled his trip to the AU and the G2 summit in South Africa, in order to focus on the issues back at home. And we're just coming out from the situation room currently, whereby the president actually chaired that meeting and to also brief him on some of the things that have been happening since this unfortunate incident has happened in the country. Presently, we are receiving very good positive news from that, from Kwara State, where the entire 38 people that were abducted have been reunited with their families. And progress is also made from Niger State, whereby we have about 51 of those students that have now reunited with their families. For Kebbi State, efforts are also yielding positive results. Progress is being made substantially in that aspect. And all security forces are still deployed there, cordon of the whole general area, whereby we expect that we'll have some also news from that general area. During the directive meeting with Mr. President, he also made mention of the fact that or made certain pronouncements and give certain directives which actually concerns the police, and I believe that the IG will also make that public.
That's the Chief of Army Staff, Major General Waidu Shaibu. So that statement, I mean, most times referred to as that as well, but I think with what he said, we can now build confidence that as we look forward to the end, there's hope at the end of the tunnel.
Okay, you build confidence.
You don't look that. No, but that's what he said after the meeting.
Why was the former service chief taken out?
Chief of intelligence. There's also, I mean, the IGP was there. Everybody, security, all of them, they were there.
How many times have they been there? They always go there now. That is part of the routine to meet with the commander-in-chief of armed forces. The problem or the question is, does the government have the political will and capacity? Mr. Hassan, where is the list of Boko Haram or terrorist sponsors that the government claimed to know about, beginning even from the Buhari administration? Who is shielding known terrorists or terrorist sponsors and financiers? So all of these kind of statements and platitudes, for how long do we want to continue in this direction? The appeal to be to President Tinubu, look, Mr. President, God has been good to you. A former governor, former senator, national leader, your wife a 3-time senator. It has come to a point where we should realize that the destiny and the moving forward of Nigeria is more important than any political ambition that you may have. Between now and 2027, the president should forget about whatever second-term ambition. Focus on holding Nigeria together, that this country does not degenerate. Hand it back over to the hands of competent persons who will stop the bleeding and begin the healing. Let us begin to rein on the national security affairs and get security officials who are interested in defense and not the politics of defense. The ministers of defense are politicians, and if you know that these persons are unable to deliver, let the commander-in-chief be seen to be commander-in-chief of armed forces and not a commander-in-chief who is ready to sit and share sovereignty of a country with terrorists. It is unfortunate.
It really is unfortunate. I remember when the governor of Zamfara State, Governor Dada Lawal, said he knows where the terrorists are.
We know where they are. We know their family. He will finish them.
Nigerians just want to be able to have a safe and a secure country. There are many questions I want to ask you, but Peter, would have to have a part 2 of this conversation. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Absolute pleasure.
All right.
Welcome back. In what is now becoming a disturbing trend, state after state in the north are shutting down schools in response to the escalating insecurity in the region. From Yobe to Katsina, Kaduna to Kwara and Niger states, several boarding schools have been closed as a proactive measure to safeguard students in the schools. One of it is that of the Niger State governor, who actually made this statement in a video.
Nigeria is the only country we have, and Niger State is our state. As such, we must continue as government to protect the lives and properties of our citizens. In this decision, stakeholders today have decided to close all schools in Niger State. Private, primary and secondary schools, missionary schools, Islamic schools, federal government college winner. All federal government colleges are already regulated by federal government of Nigeria.
Now imagine being a 12-year-old girl in Yobe, eager to learn, only to be told that your school has been closed temporarily. Or a parent in Kaduna torn between sending your child to school and fearing that they might not return. This is not just about education, it's also about the survival and the safety of the children. Now joining us to discuss the implications of this development and what it means for the safety of the school children and how this closure of school further affect the education of these children in the northern part of the country is retired Brigadier General and former spokesman of the Nigerian Army, Sani Usman. Thank you very much for joining us, sir.
Good morning. Thank you so much.
Now, General Sani Usman, the last 1 week has been quite eventful in terms of security. We've seen unprecedented attacks. A general was killed. We've seen kidnappings in different parts of the country. What would you say is responsible for this uptick in insecurity?
Good morning. Really, it is not just eventful, but I think it is quite sad and unfortunate given the security challenges we have experienced from northeast, north central, and northwest east-west with the abduction of school children. It's quite worrisome and disturbing. And if you are going to talk about what brought about this, I think it's the issue of not taking security, giving security the desired attention, and in the sense that the adversary always take and do advantage of the seemingly low moment to attack. Now, and quite unfortunately, they have an agenda they want to, perpetuate. And unfortunately, we are capitulating to it in the sense that, look at it, more or less a copycat syndrome. Schools being closed here and there in about 3 states of the country. Now, the question is, beyond closure of the school, what is it that we are putting in place to ensure that this kind of abductions will not take place? And if we look at it, I think it's just issue of ensuring community resilience and make sure that we protect these schools. And I can give you an example. Look at Borno State, particularly Maiduguri had been the epicenter of Boko Haram insurgency. And everybody knows what Boko Haram stands for, including its renegade groups, ISWAP and Sarudin and all the rest. They are against Western education and all the rest. But look at, throughout this insurgency for the past 15 years, the level of destruction, devastation in the northeast, in particular Borno State. University of Maiduguri has never closed for 1 day because of security challenges. So why should it be that secondary schools will be closed? Simply because of some mischievous element that they take and do advantages of the seemingly lack of concern about security in our educational system. And again, the issue of policy somersault. What happened to the Safe School Initiative and the fund and everything about it? So these are the kind of things. And I think it is not the best way to go about it. Yes, the temporary closure, the closure should be temporary, putting in place mechanisms that are effective, that will ensure the safety of lives and property, especially the safety of school children in various schools across the country, not just in the northwest or north central part of the country.
All right, General, just to also then speak about this school closure, one would understand the concerns because as a parent you would wonder why you would leave your child in school when you're seeing repeated incidences of terrorist attacks and kidnappings. But does that not in some way signal some form of surrender to the terror groups? Are we sending a message to them indirectly that they are winning this battle against insecurity?
That is exactly what I'm saying. That is why I made reference to the University of Maiduguri. juxtapose that with the insurgency. Compare it with what is happening in the northwest and north central and what had been happening in the northeast. Yet, University of Maiduguri has not closed, and I cannot remember any other school has closed beyond the one that had been destroyed. So the bottom line here is that unless if we ensure community resilience and call the block of these criminal elements, we will be capitulating to them. And at the end of it, any society that is not educated, you know, is a sorry state. We are taking ourselves maybe 30, 40 years backward. You can imagine, you know, at this 21st century that you just decide to close school simply because somebody is wielding AK-47, and at the end of the day, you will even have to pay him or them, as the case may be. And I think it's about time we call a spade and stop put a stop to all this nonsense. And how do we go about it? Is to ensure that these schools are secured. And you cannot secure the school without engaging the totality of the whole components of the Nigerian society. We neglected our policing system, and there are other component groups that have not. And I always mention it, the main staying power of the Nigerian society is the human resource. To what extent have you harnessed this human resource to ensure that each and everyone contributes towards securing this country? Take, for instance, the various what happened to these traditional rulers. In fact, we are yet to even determine what is the level of relationship, because we look at education being in concurrent list. There are private schools, there are public schools. None of them is secure. So what is the relationship, and what sort of educational system do we have, and what are the mechanisms in terms of protecting it? And in fact, if you are establishing a school, what are those the things that you have to put in place before you even establish school? Not that you leave everything to the government and the rest of them. So these are the kind of things that we should look at, and most importantly, to ensure that these schools are well secured and well protected. And we have the capacity to do that. We have the civil defense, we have the police, but we need to increase the number, we need to train them, we need to equip them also. And we have the local community itself, because all these criminal elements that are perpetrating these criminal acts, they came from the society. Somebody gives them information, somebody assists them with logistics, somebody negotiate for the release and the payment of ransom and all the rest of them. And I think it's about time that we look at ourselves in the face and tell ourselves the truth and put a stop to all these things.
All right, General Usman. There are calls for different things. Is the military incapacitated and so on? I'd like us to delve into this, but first, let's go for a quick break, and we'll ask you to please stay with us. When we come back, we'll talk some more. Thanks for staying with us here on Breakfast Central, on News Central. We're taking a look at the rising spate of insecurity in Nigeria and the school children who have been told to go back home. Our guest is retired Brigadier General and former spokesperson of the Nigerian Army, General Sani Usman, who's joining us live from our Abuja studios. But let's go straight to the question. I think it's one of the biggest questions everyone is asking right now. Is the Nigerian military capacitated? We've seen various videos out there where soldiers are complaining they do not have firepower to go toe-to-toe with these terrorists. And at the end of the day, a lot of funds is pumped into Nigeria's security architecture, building it to be a powerful one, what it's usually known for. So my question once again is the Nigerian military force incapacitated?
Well, I think the long and short answer to your question is capital no, in the sense that the Nigerian military that I know is not incapacitated, is rather doing marvelously well in the circumstances that it found itself. And I want you to juxtapose this vis-a-vis the myriads of security challenges across the country and elsewhere, in the sense that virtually the military is performing duty far beyond what it was supposed to be performing. So given that circumstances, maybe you can say that the military is being stretched, but not incapacitated, because it has the capability. And I also look at it in the sense that recently there was a change in the leadership of the armed forces of Nigeria, right from the Chief of Defense Staff and service chiefs. And these are people that we have known of proven integrity, well-trained and well-experienced, and they had been part of the system, and they are given the desired, leadership and impetus to the problem. But what is happening is that, and I don't know how to put it, there is this house is saying there is a local staple food that if it's much, when the ingredients you put might not necessarily make the desired impact. So basically that is what is happening, and we need the numbers, we need the equipment, we need the support that we can get. Then you can see the very best out of this. Take for instance, we have had instances the military will be engaged in a particular act and then they will be called upon to do another. That is one thing. Then the other thing is the issue of the level of support from the basic other components of Nigerian society. Take for instance the intelligence available to it. Then of course we neglected our time-tested conflict resolution mechanism, in the sense that we more or less have a kind of knee-jerk approach to security challenges. Every security challenge they will just call in the military, when under normal circumstances some of the security challenges are issue of injustice and social injustice, so to speak. So the military cannot solve that problem unless, because bulk of it borders on governance issue. Now let's look at it. Among the three tiers of the government, federal, state and local governments, the local government system is not working. Problems that can easily be dealt with at that level, a kind of buffer zone, they will be shifted to the state to the federal government. And now you look at it also, even among the states, they are speaking at cross purposes with each other. So there is a limit to which the military or the security forces can, perform. And that is why you are looking at it from that perspective, as if it has been incapacitated. No, far from it. And if you look at the antecedents and the history of the armed forces of Nigeria, right from the First, Second World War, and of course the various peacekeeping operations in the 60s and of course 90s and 80s, you know that Nigerian armed forces are one of the very best that can be compared. But it's just that they found themselves in circumstances. And if you also look at the issue of the counter-insurgency effort, there are certain countries for 58 years they are contending with counter-insurgency effort, but they were not successful. But here you are, within a decade or more, the armed forces of Nigeria were able to do the best they can. And given the fact that every day we have one security challenge or the other, for instance, the issue of banditry, the issue of kidnapping, and we have neglected our policing system over time, that the police are, kind of having difficulty in performing their duty simply because of neglect over time. Because if you look at it within the last 26 years or so, to what extent have we invested in our policing system in terms of number, in terms of training, in terms of equipment to meet up with the 21st century security challenges? So these are the kind of problems that you have to look at before you come to that conclusion, which is, to my own understanding, honestly, is a wrong conclusion. They have not been incapacitated, but there is need to do better, as it were.
And talking about the need to do better, General Usman, we are living in unprecedented times. Never in the history of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has another nation threatened to invade Nigeria, all guns blazing, albeit conditional. As a member of as a fellow of the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations and a member of the prestigious National Institute of Policy and Strategic Studies, do you think Mr. President should have addressed Nigerians to, instill confidence and address this situation? And also, the National Security Advisor, Malam Nuhu Ribadu, met with the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, just a few days ago to discuss modalities in dealing with this terrorism issue. What sort of partnership should Nigeria seek with the United States of America in dealing with violent extremist groups in Nigeria that will not allow us to lose our sovereignty, because they say even in Freetown, there's no free lunch.
Well, the starting point is that first and foremost, I can understand how an average Nigerian feels, especially given the circumstances we found ourselves within the last couple of weeks or within the last 12 months or so, especially with the nation and the threats by the American president and all the rest. Yes, there is need to have a greater sense of belonging. It will not be out of place if the president comes out and address Nigerians and give them assurance to reinforce what the ministers and other aides were saying and the effort they are making. That is one. Then secondly, the issue of constructive engagement is equally very important, but there is one thing people should understand. This is just a stage in our national time, in our national history, and it will come to pass. But if for the time being, I think we should not despair, but we should be courageous enough to accept certain things the way they are. For instance, the Americans did nothing other than holding a mirror for us. So by the time you look at the image in the mirror, it will not do you well to break the mirror. Rather, it's for you to, critically evaluate things that you have been doing wrong and to see how best you can make up for it. Now, part of the process is ongoing with the engagement with delegation to, United States and all the rest. But given what is happening way back home, you start asking yourself questions. Why should it be that a Nigerian will not have confidence in the institutions and the government in the country to the extent of reporting his own state to another sovereign nation? So these are the issues, and we have noticed over time the divisive tendencies of the various components of Nigerian society, unlike in the past. And we need to make concerted effort to ensure that Nigerians are given sense of belonging. We belong to one indivisible entity that each and every one of us has a role to play, and by loving and taking care of each other. And of course, the government has a greater role to play. And it will not, even though we can understand the geopolitics and the circumstances that brought about all these things. The Americans, they understand, they are trying to pursue their own interest, in the sense that, look at it, they don't even have a foothold on the African continent, as it were. Initially, they have military bases in Niger and Mali, and with what is happening in those countries, they are no more. The closest they have is in Djibouti. Now, they don't even have a means of monitoring what is happening in Sahel, and the growing interest of the Western countries, of course, even the Asian countries, Russia and China, and of course for the Americans to also have a foothold on what is happening in Nigeria. So when you put all these things all together, so you look at it, will you allow your country to be a pawn in the chessboard of geopolitics, and given what Nigeria stands for? So I think we need to look at ourselves and see how best we can come out of this quagmire, in the sense of more stronger, more united, as it were, so that nobody will come and tell us what to do, because we have the capacity of doing that. So it is a good thing that they are engaging them, but let it be on our own terms, because Nigeria is the biggest black nation in the world, and we have the prospect. And I always proudly state that one of the staying powers of Nigeria is not the abundant mineral resources, it is the human resources, because Nigerians are just fantastic people, and given conducive atmosphere, we can take on the world. So we shouldn't allow anybody or anything to distract us, and we have nobody to tell us the truth other than ourselves.
Who have children that are in these schools in northern Nigeria, where we're seeing a high level of insecurity, with schools being a soft target? What would you say to these parents? And I reckon that you mentioned at the start of this interview, you made reference to the Safe Schools initiative. Where are we with that, and what would you say should be the next steps for the government in that regard?
I made mention of it much earlier in the sense that I believe this school closure should be a temporary measure, but going back to drawing board to see beyond the closure of the school, what next? And what next is that we must make sure that nothing, absolutely nothing, and nobody should disrupt the educational system. How do we do that? Is to ensure that we secure these schools. And if it means harmonizing the school, aggregating them just like what they have in Goza after, peace has returned to that place, where you lump up a number of schools, but the educational system or the school calendar should not be disrupted by some miscreants because they have no reason whatsoever. Everything they are doing is basically criminality. It is not as if they have been deprived of anything. So we cannot give in to criminals, and we have the capacity to do that. And I'm so happy that the president has just directed that there should be more recruitment into the police force. But beyond the police force, what happened to the Nigerian Civil Security and Civil Defense Corps and other security agencies? But beyond that, how do we also harmonize and complement the efforts of the various state governments? And of course, the state government themselves, they have to come together, because sometimes some of these kidnappers, they will kidnap in a particular state and take victims to another state. So these are some of the issues that we have to tackle and make sure that there is a synergy of effort to ensure that these criminal elements will not have a breathing space. And I'm so happy to understand that the military are doing marvelously well, particularly the Air Force, but we need to also intensify intelligence, both the use of technology and the use of human intelligence as to where. And that is where the issue of constructive engagement with our international partners come into play, because it is just ridiculous that you take a number of people just like that, without anybody seeing them, and you just move them just like cows. But even cows, it is very difficult to move them in such a large number to a safe haven or anywhere as it is.
All right. It's been a very fruitful conversation. We want to say thank you so much for speaking with us, General Sani Usman. And we look forward to having you again. By then, we hope that there will be sweet victory, especially for Nigeria in its fight against terrorism and its fight against ensuring that students are no longer becoming captors. Thank you so much for your time.
God grace.
And that does it. We'll go on a quick break. When we come back, still talking about education and the students and school. Let's see what the implications definitely will look like. Do stay with us. Hi, Cheesy.
Cheese balls. Hi, Chizoma. Does anybody call you cheese balls?
I'm sure they call her, maybe in school then they say.
Sure cheese balls. Because I have a friend that's Chizoma. That's what they call her.
Chizoma, why are you not wearing bulletproof?
Sorry?
We can't hear her, guys.
Guys, please increase our
volume.
We can only see her beautiful smile. But we cannot hear her.
Take bulletproof and helmet for Chizoma. If she's wearing helmet,
can you hear me now?
It will spoil
yes,
her
can hear you loud and
clear. Peruvian.
A Peruvian hair will not be given if she's wearing helmet.
No. They say, why are you not wearing bulletproof and helmet? Say you know the fear.
Don't do this.
Yeah. Ah, my face. You have called me.
This Namibian
you want to eat some cheese balls, right?
Do you know this?
What do you say?
You come in, sir. Boss. Welcome, sir.
I don't want to make her cheese up and stock.
Oh, yeah, let's
go. This guy is a Namibian politician. His name is Adolf Hitler. Namibian politician. He won his election. His name is Adolf Hitler. How can your parents name you Adolf Hitler?
It's fine.
of what
Now,
we expect.
Now, wow. Adolf Hitler, the country, so.
It's a sign of what.
Welcome back. You're still watching Breakfast Show and talking about the insecurity that's bedeviling Nigeria's education system. We do have our correspondent who's on ground to look into the effects and impact that will have on students, not forgetting to the school itself, curriculum, and also what the people are saying in these communities and states. We're going to look at the closure of schools, particularly we're going to look at the Unity Government School in Jos. We have our correspondent, Chizoba Nyonwe, who's on ground. Good morning to you, Chizoba.
Good morning.
Right. Can you go ahead and share with us what's really happening there in Jos Plateau as well?
Okay, so if you can see behind me, that's the main gate of the Federal Government College here in Jos Plateau State. It's a mixed school, both boys and girls. But unfortunately, by this time of the day and of the week, of course it's Monday, one would expect that these students would be in school, in their classes, taking their lessons. But sadly and unfortunately, at this time and age in Nigeria, these students are not here to receive their lessons, to improve their education, you know, because of insecurity. Of course, everyone knows what has happened in Para State, in Nasarawa State, where these students were kidnapped while in school, while taking their lessons. I mean, they've committed no crime to go to school. This is one of their rights. And it's unfortunate that while exercising their civil rights and responsibilities, so to speak, the academic session was cut short. And so they are not able to stay at school to continue with their education. So, I mean, the gate is just closed. We were actually allowed by security to get some shots and confirm that these students are not here. And truly, they are not here. Since Saturday, they all left because of this insecurity in the country. I mean, the government in the press release issued on Friday evening says this is part of precautionary measures to ensure that while you want to go about your civic responsibilities, I mean, going to school or to work or any other thing, you should first be safe. And so based on that, they ordered a closure for all the government schools in Plateau State. And not just the government schools, I mean, all the schools, mission schools, and everything called an educational institution was ordered to close down. And I mean, all of them, I can
including the private schools,
that are all shut down now.
Yes.
I didn't hear that.
I was asking if the order to shut down, you said the government schools, the missionary schools, and I was asking if it included the private schools as well.
Yes, because the order says, or the directive says, all schools in Plateau State should be shut down for safety reasons. And so among the schools I visited earlier, since on Saturday, I mean, I was in a mission school in Barkin, Ladi local government area of the state, St. John Vianney Minor Seminary. The school is shut down. Some other private schools I also visited, shut down. This is the government school, one of the 47 earlier listed by the Federal Ministry of Education. And of course, the state government to shut down. They have all complied. And while I went in there, it's sad to see that everywhere is just empty. Classrooms are just under lock and key, but you could see from the open windows. I mean, the classrooms are empty, chairs, desks are all scattered there, and no one was around. I mean, everyone would prefer to be safe first before any other thing. So it is sad. I was able to speak with some parents off camera. I had some earlier, but they said they had to run for work and all those, and so they couldn't stay to join me live. But they are complaining bitterly about the insecurity level in Nigeria, in Plateau State, of course, which is not excluded from all of these things, you know. So they are sad that, I mean, so many of them have said that they just finished paying school fees that should last till December when the students will write their examinations and then close for the term. But now they are back at home. I mean, they don't even know what else to do, whether to go for external lessons, you know, to keep these students, their children, engaged academically so that they don't just while away their time. And for them, it is waste of resources, it is waste of finances, because they have already budgeted whatever they could for the session, or rather for the term, and now they're being set back again. So, I mean, it's a source of worry for every one of them. And what they're asking is that government at all levels, both at the local, state, and federal. I mean, they should rise up to this challenge. Security agencies too are not left behind to rise up to this challenge and see what they can do to ensure that this kind of thing doesn't reoccur. You may just want to know that it's only the military schools that are in session as I speak with you. The Air Force military school in Jos is still in session. Of course, there are other counterparts because it's both girls and boys. So they are all in session now, but every other school, I mean, is other luck I see.
All right, Chinwe, you already answered the question I was going to ask you next about what the parents were feeling. Thank you very much for speaking with them, capturing their emotions and conveying same to us. And again, just to say that we extend our hearts and our thoughts to parents and even the students who now have to face what might look like an uncertain future because they don't know when their schools will reopen and when life will return to normal for them. Thank you for joining us this morning, Chinwe Ogele. We'll continue the conversation this morning by bringing in an expert in the education sector. He's the team lead and EIC Dev reporting, Mr. Bojid Alabi. Good morning. Thank you very much.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, you've heard Chinwe share and her experience, how some of the schools are shutting down. Unfortunately, it feels like we're between the devil and the deep blue sea, where we want to prioritize education, we also want to prioritize the safety of our students. But what are your thoughts on the shutting down of the schools?
Yeah, excellent. I think it was the best decision at the moment. It's an unusual season. We have had this experience in the past, and it is back again with us. It's quite unfortunate that we are back to what we used to have as far back as 2014 or thereabouts. But it is safe and better to have the children at home than to be nursing the fear that even when they don't go for them, parents are unable to sleep because they are not really sure of what is going to happen to their children. So I think that was the best decision that was taken. And the federal government said, education is on concurrent list. And because it's on concurrent list, the federal government only had capacity to give instruction to the unity colleges and also now advised that every other schools that are located where the states have taken decisions, even if they are not contained in the 41 schools identified by the federal government, they must also abide by the decision of that state. I think it is ideal. It is the best thing that we can do in the moment.
You're right when you spoke about the sense of the parents, the heightened anxiety, and that this decision was made. But this decision is not without consequences because it would have, the school closures will have an effect on the curriculum and the learning timing of the students. Would they be able to meet up with their peers in the safer part of the country as a result of this? And when this sort of unprecedented things happen, how do you adjust the calendar?
I think we have had this experience in the past when we had COVID-19. There was a way we managed ourselves. I think we need to understand very clearly, maybe because of my understanding of what a little knowledge about insurgency. My master's was on diplomacy and strategic studies, and I think my thesis was on insurgency in Nigeria. And I read all through, and I realized that the most difficult aspect of insurgency to deal with is the one that has to do with religious creed. It is a very difficult one. And now that it has a kind of a foreign backing, there's nobody that can deny that. There is interest, massive interest in the resources that Nigeria is blessed with. And when you see that, when you see somebody calling a disgraced nation, it is not just for fun. People never knew. A lot of mercenaries were already here before such heavy statement was made. It is as a result of some level of frustration because some people do not have access to what is here. And they understand, apart from knowledge economy that they run, tell me the natural resources that you see in some of these places that you go. Whether you go to West, whether you go to Eastern Asia, you go to anywhere, apart from here in Africa. The concentration, it's not in the best interest of some developed nations that Africa resorts its crisis and is at peace. That's the reality. Many of them, we have seen it before. So the best way to do it, we have to keep them fighting. Yeah, so we have to, it is to keep us fighting, but we have to be diplomatic in the way we approach this. Whether we like it or not, there is nobody who comes to remove subsidy. We understand the regime of subsidy. It's something that we also understood it. Some of us have to travel as far as Okerete near Benin Republic, and we see the kind of the atrocities that Nigerians perpetrate. Because somebody is paying you subsidy, you are diverting the oil outside the country because you are making the money. You cannot be dealing with people who are dealing in forex before, who used to enjoy that forex. They were not living the comfort of their home. We had them, we knew them. These were people who were taking on official rate and they would take it through the black market. You can't deal with people like that and expect that there won't be a kind of a fight back. And you see a system where currently things started having some kind of shape. And you are saying, no, we don't want to import fuel again. We want to have a situation where even if you are importing, there must be 15% duty on it. It's a way of encouraging local consumption, local production, and things like that. But nobody, that's the truth, because you are not existing in a vacuum.
But it can be more powerful than the government. I understand some of the sentiments you've shared, and some of them are germane. But the government has a responsibility to protect its people, not look for excuses. So what do you expect from the government going forward now that they've shut the schools?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think we underrated the insecurity in Nigeria very much, whether the government or even individuals. Some of us, we look at it as if you just go out there, go and unpick these people, and you just... I had people, I have a friend, a partner friend, a Air Force officer, who was part of those who went to, is it that, one of these very terrible areas. Okay. And he almost lost his life because these guys were shooting. The question you should ask is this: where do these ammunition people use? Where do they come from? Who mobilizes these people? Who funds them? Can they get funding without the support of the foreign agents? These are very clear things. They are not something that a government in Nigeria will just sit down. These are people who can even block your access to resources. They can block your access to even get this power. Go and check all these deserts. Where are these things flowing in? They are flowing into the country because we have individuals who are not even internal individuals. I'm telling you that go and check. You will see, if you notice one of the pictures shown by the president yesterday, you will see that the minister of solid mineral was actually in that picture. What was he doing there? He should send some kind of signal that there is more to natural resources to this crisis than what you can see. And that is why it will require, it is not only the kinetic force that can resolve this crisis. You also need, when people are talking about, oh, we need state police, yes, it is important. But the question we should also ask is that some of these things, if they are not properly controlled, can go out of hand. The same way we empower them to use it for the good, it's also the same way they can use it for the for the terrible system that they have. For instance, I gave one example yesterday. I look at a past governor who was asked to come and who was invited by EFCC and was running from pillar to post, running, jumping inside his successor's vehicle and things like that, fighting. You can imagine if you have such a person having access to state police. Which other authority in Nigeria will have the access to invite him? Because he's empowered.
Becomes a personal militia.
It becomes a personal, so they use it for their own advantage. I agree that concentrating it at the center may be difficult, but we are not America. We are not, institutions work over there. Individuals operate here. So we must be very careful about what we are looking for. If you know what, in Osun recently, Amotekun went over to a particular village and killed as many people as possible. I don't know whether you watched that clip. The governor had to cut short his trip and visited the family. It's Amotekun. These are people who are overpowered, who are empowered by the state. It is to secure the people. But how do they use the weapon? This thing is not just something that somebody will just sit down. Yes, it is important for us to secure our nation. But there must be diplomatic way of doing it. Nigeria alone cannot resolve this. The president must reach out, must go out, and that is why I am happy that even though he could not go to that G20, it was important for Shettima to go to the G20. We need foreign collaboration. We need external support to be able to address these concerns. Nigerian borders are too porous, very, very porous, and you need some of these individual society. People talk about, look at what happened in Libya now. And I keep asking people, the ammunition used to fight in Libya, to displace the government of Libya, where do you think they ended? They were here. They moved them here. Every now and then you see a whole lot of it. You think all these boys that are fighting, you think they are Nigerians, you think they are Nigerians, you think they are this ISWAP. Who trained them? Where did they train?
Well, if we look at that, anyway, I think we'll just throw that complete burden on the security experts to further help us break it down. But I know it's overwhelming. I mean, I can feel it from your voice. I think everybody's actually tensed right now. Hence why we need to look at the possibilities. But another person or people who are tensed in the society are the parents right now. Because the tension is not swelling from the insecurity crisis. The tension is also coming from the fact that, one, the children will be at home. As a parent, you'll be thinking, what next?
What do you do
with
these children?
Are you going to get a home lesson teacher for them to continue to teach them? And what's the duration that these children will actually stay at home for? These are the conversations. You've been in the educational circle for quite a while. If you were to advise a parent who is watching the program right now, who has been heavily impacted by the insecurity happening there, what advice would you give to these parents, knowing that the children can no longer attend school?
Or maybe we'll go back to the COVID days where virtual lessons.
Yeah, you know. I think my first message to the parent is that they should look at it this way. If this did not happen and the other happened, which one would they have preferred? Having their children with them, sitting with them, looking at them. Even if a whole year is wasted, it is not a waste because they have access to their children and they can go back. Up to today, we don't have Leah Sharibu. The parent of Leah Sharibu would have loved to have Leah Sharibu even at home for 20 years before she goes back, if she wants to go back. So it is important. Safety is very key. It is very, very important. That's number one. Number two is the fact that what you learn in school is quite important. If you are, depending on the level you have, these children can continue. The facilities are already there these days. When we had COVID, people wrote exams. It's not that they were in the four walls of classrooms. We had a lot of opportunities where people were training them, this and that. My niece and nephew traveled recently abroad. They couldn't go to school, but their teachers were communicating them. They were teaching them while they were away. They were sending lesson notes to them. They were sending questions to them using WhatsApp, using all these facilities. I think this is very essential. The teachers can still come together. They can be sharing lessons. They can be teaching. There are a lot of social media. There are a lot of online platforms. The only thing that will be impacted is the physical interaction, which can be taken over by the parents in the interim. Even if it is just 1 hour you can spend with your child, spend then an hour with them to monitor what they are doing, to see what they have been able to do. I think it is very important that this is just a temporary setback, which is very important, which is very better. And we should continue to pray for those who are still in captivity, that we pray that they come. I think it is better to have them with us. They have access to a lot of tools where they can learn. They should not allow that to discourage them. I think the parents have a huge responsibility to at least fill their gap. And also the teachers are not asked to just go back home and be sleeping. They should also pick up their tabs, pick up their tools and be able to engage their students. I think it's already happening. Even during the long vacation, they still continue to interact with their schools. The schools still send questions to parents. We still relate to them. I think that those systems are already in place.
Okay, let's talk about the Safe Schools Initiative and your thoughts about the Safe Schools Initiative. There was a report that the federal government earmarked 15 billion for the implementation of financing Safe Schools Initiative, and there was a breakdown for it. They said that the plan proposes 32.58 billion naira in 2023, 36.98 billion naira in 2024, 37.15 billion naira in 2025, and 38.03 billion naira in 2026, respectively. And they added that the funding of the plan is through annual budgetary provisions from federal, state, and local governments, government interventionist agencies, foreign and multilateral institutions, businesses and philanthropists, donor partners, and others. Now, what's the plan about? The plan for the Safe Schools Initiative is focused on achieving the following. A, building and integrating security resilient host communities in the protection of education. B, strengthen the defection, deterrence, and response capabilities of the security agency. Equipping the school security, response, and coordination centers in Abuja and states, respectively. D, regular engagements and policy advocacy with the Nigerian public and key government officials on implementation of national plan.
Yeah, thank you very much. It is unfortunate, and I must say it very clearly here, that Nigeria does not have any clear idea of the school safety program, school safety policy. The target was only in the area of the funding that will come to the. And why did I say so? I'm saying so because in 2023, as the chairman of Education Writers Association of Nigeria, we had a summit in Lagos here, where we featured critical experts in terms of school safety, and it was basically to address that issue. And we realized that the question we should ask ourselves, how can you have school safety initiative and it is domiciled in the Ministry of Finance? How is that possible? It is domiciled in the Ministry of Finance. Even the Ministry of Education doesn't understand much of what is done. Apart from NSCDC, the Security and Civil Defense Corps that is involved, and we featured the head of that initiative at NSCDC. But I can tell you that the bulk of the decisions taken on school safety initiative is in the Ministry of Finance, because the target, the focus is on the money. It's not on what they want to do. The Minister of Education doesn't have anything to do. And it started right from the days of President Bola, the late President Muhammadu Buhari. And I realized that it is not, so every ministry was now fighting to say this thing should come to us. This thing should go to this. Okay, what is the essence of having a Ministry of Finance coordinating something about school safety initiative? If education is not involved, the interior is not in charge, so what is the point? Because you just want to sit on the money because foreign grants are coming. And that is the point. So I am saying it very clearly, except it changes tomorrow. And it is part of what we want to actually discuss on Thursday. Apologies, because this year's summit will also be holding at the University of Lagos on Thursday. And we are expecting critical stakeholders, including ministers, critical stakeholders to come and address some of these issues. Initially, we were talking, the focus is actually on the paper qualification and the integrity of public examinations. But with this current situation, we are also adding that there is no way we will not discuss the safety and the security of our schools.
I mean, just to correct what I said earlier, when I mentioned that they had marked 15 billion for the Safe School Initiative, that was for 2023. So altogether, it's a total investment size of 144.86 billion naira.
I'm telling you, let them come and tell who collected it. You can see the control of schools at the federal level is in the agencies under the Federal Ministry of Education. So what is the Federal Ministry of Finance doing with the control of school safety initiative? For what?
I believe these are some of the issues you'll be discussing on Thursday. But let's move to our correspondent in Kano, Emmanuel Bagudu, who's joining us live from the Federal Government Girls College in Minjibri in Kano. Hello, Emmanuel. Good morning.
He's done a report for us, actually, and then we'll take a look at the report and I'll come here to finalize the conversation.
I am standing in front of the Federal Government Girls College, Minjibri, Kano State. And of course, the place is shut down, no visitors allowed. I was also denied access because of panic. Some parents were here yesterday and they were denied access. They wanted to pick up their children because of panic. I'm here with one of the community leaders who is going to tell me what actually happened and what's actually going on here at the Federal Government Girls College.
To sunana Ado ni ne chairman nan gurin da muke lodi na gaba makaranta saboda ka gaba da magana mu alhamdulillah
me faru jiya ne me faru
abin da ke faruwa mun ga akan zo nan da kai yara so sun je sanarwa cewa
su wake iyaye kenan
iyayen yara suna tunanin cewa akwai cewa wani ta ce a fida yara daga makaranta akan tsaro to gaskiya nan ba mu da matsala an zo nan ba mu da wannan ina tunanin ma ai ba mu ji a cikin wannan tsaro saboda ka wanda ya zo za a ce da shi ba mu ji ba a cikin tsaro da mu muna zaune lafiya lau ko ce hankali ba mu da matsala kamar tsaro
alhamdulillah. So what he's just trying to say is that of course he was here and he witnessed that encounter between parents and the teachers, and he wants to assure everyone that as far as he has been a chairman of this park in front of the school, there's no any issue of insecurity, that parents should just calm down and stop coming to fight to pick up their children.
There's no issue of insecurity. Well, let's wrap this conversation up because we need to move straight to the papers. Your last words concerning this level of insecurity and what the students should actually look forward to.
Yeah, my message is that this is not the time for blame game. This is the time for all of us to rise, to defend our nation, to support this country. It is beyond the fact that, and the government also should focus more on governance than politics. We must tell the government that 2027 is still far away. To them, it is not far, but it is still far away. The focus should be on what to deliver. It is not how much of defections that you have that determine what you. If we continue to remain in power for the next 100 years and people cannot have anything good about you, it is a failure. So it is better that you focus on what the people need, which is security, 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 and you provide the basic needs for the people. Economy must be in good state. And I tell the people, it is not enough to just sit down and all these beer parlor conversations. This is what they are doing here. This is what they are doing here. It is deeper than that. Maybe because of the little knowledge some of us about crisis, insecurity, and insurgency, it has allowed us to be able to look at the international dimension. There is that foreign challenge that we are facing. And all of us as a people must rise to defend this nation. Nobody out there is coming to defend us. All the noise that they are making about us is all lies. They are coming just because of your resources. They are interested in what you have that they don't have because they know that we are mismanaging them, and they are creating that deliberate problem. People should go and read How Europe Underdeveloped Africa by Walter Rodney. Maybe they are going to have a better understanding.
Ojit Alabi, thank you for joining us this morning on Breakfast Central. It's a really sad time, for us as a nation, a very sad, sensitive time. And now particularly looking at our education sector and our students, while we're talking about it at the national, the tertiary level, it has gotten now as well. Tertiary level is dealing with money. We are, the younger generation are now dealing with insecurity, but it's really a sad situation. We're going to break now. And when we come back, we still have Which Way Nigeria and we have the papers. Please stay with us.
I speak today not just as a journalist, not just as a Nigerian, but as a human being stunned by what our country has become. Last week in Kebbi State, 24 schoolgirls were abducted from Government Girls Comprehensive School in Maga, a school that should be a place of safety, learning and hope. Gunmen stormed the premises around 4 a.m., dragging children into the night, into fear, into uncertainty. In response, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu instructed the Minister of State for Defense, Bello Matawalle, to relocate to Kebbi and coordinate rescue efforts. But what did the nation witness on his arrival? A red carpet, a guard of honor, a ceremonial welcome, as though we were receiving a head of state not responding to a national trauma. On the same day this happened, we got news of another major kidnapping, this time at St. Mary's Catholic School in Papiri, Niger State, where more than 300 children and staff were abducted. The Christian Association of Nigeria revised the number upwards after a verification exercise to 303 students and 12 teachers, one of the worst mass kidnappings Nigeria has ever seen. These two incidents may not have happened on the same day, but the pain is cumulative. The fear is cumulative. The failure is cumulative. Yet, somehow, in the midst of all of this, we're rolling out red carpets. How do we celebrate protocol when children are trapped in the bush, terrified and waiting for help? How do you inspect a guard of honor when families are living their worst nightmare? How do you stage ceremonies when the nation is crying? This is not just a matter of bad optics. It's evidence of a profound disconnect between leadership and the lived reality of Nigerians. We have reached a point where our priorities are upside down, where ceremonies take precedence over security, where optics overshadow outcomes. Nigeria, when did we lose our sense of outrage? Children, our children are being kidnapped in batches, and the response is a parade. Are we so desensitized that we cannot collectively say enough is enough? The Nigerian government must act decisively and immediately to end the relentless killings, kidnappings, and terrorism tormenting our nation. Enough is enough. Too many innocent children have paid the price for failure of leadership and a failure of courage. Good morning, Nigerians.
Fantastic delivery there from Benga Browa. Which way Nigeria? We keep wondering. Well, let's go straight to the front pages of the newspapers to find out which way Nigeria is going. We're going to start with the very first paper, but before then, we do have our in-house analyst, public affairs analyst, Theophilus Akatuba joins us live. Good to see you on a Monday morning.
It's a pleasure to be here. And
you know, your name inspires power and knowledge. You know, your name, Theophilus, it reminds me of a Roman tribune. Yes, from the wisdom of those that ran the Roman Empire. Yes.
Theophilus Akatuba!
Wow, I didn't realize I was quite cute.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Anyway,
Let's
happy
go
to
to
have
the first
you.
paper.
Yeah.
There's a lot I know you really want to touch on, but let's see if we have it on the front pages of the first newspaper we're going to look at. After that, we'll go straight into it. The insecurity as well.
Okay, Daily Independent.
Daily Independent. That's the first paper we're looking at. But let's see if we have that. I would have loved us to go to.
All right, let's start with the New
Let's go to New
Telegraph.
Telegraph. Let's go to New Telegraph before we put that up. I have it here. Let's see if we can shoot that up. ISWAP abducts 12 female farmers in Borno. That's the latest. That's a new one. It just happened while we're talking about the other ones.
Maybe you should read the rider to that as well.
Yeah.
Because while they're abducting 12 farmers in Borno.
As 50 St. Mary school pupils escape, reunite with families, 253 children left, if you minus that from the ones that have escaped. So that's a total of 353, okay, if we put it that way. 12 teachers still in captivity. Tinubu announces rescue of 38 kidnapped Kwara worshippers. 51 Niger school children, mass abductions. Nigeria drifting towards state failure, according to Labour Party. Pope demands release of abducted pupils and others. We're going to focus solely on this insecurity story, and we'll look at the children who are out of school as well. Our reporters are around the corner. But before you respond, Mr. Katuba, let's go to Suleja right now as we join our reporter who's on ground. Sagir Ibrahim joins us live this morning. Good morning to you, Sagir.
Good morning, Joe. Can you hear me?
Absolutely, loud and clear. Please go ahead with your report.
Yes, indeed. So I'm at the Federal Government Academy in Senegal, Niger State, just behind me, and I heard you can see the gate right there. I had a place there earlier just to confirm whether there's any activity going on, and I was reliably informed. In fact, I spoke with the Vice Principal Special Duties, and he confirmed to me that following the government's directive on Friday that 41 unity schools be temporarily shut down. This school, the Federal Government Academy Suleja, is one of those 41 schools that were directed to temporarily shut down until the situation calms. So at the moment, they vacated on Saturday, the 22nd of November, and at the moment, all of the wards have since left school. All of the students have since left school, and the school is empty at the moment. Of course, you can see the nature of the road, but then again, the road is not the focus of the conversation. We will focus on that much later, but at the moment, students have left the school, and the school is currently empty. Back to you in the studio.
Wow. All right, students have left school. The school is completely empty.
Now, so quickly, before we let you go, what's the security situation like in Niger State and also in the outskirts of Abuja and Nasarawa?
Well, Benga, Niger State has had its own share of insecurity issues, especially considering when you go around areas like Shiroko government, where there has been cases of terrorist attacks happen, and of course in Papiri, Niger State, where the students were unfortunately abducted. But those areas are quite far away from this area. This is Suleja, Niger State, It's just some few kilometers away from the city center. I think 40, 45 minutes, roughly 1 hour, save for the fact that there's heavy construction going on around the Zuba axis, which delays traffic by another 45 minutes. So here is very close to the Federal Capital Territory, as the case may be. There's been no concern so much about, of course, security issues, save for the fact that, of course, the abductions seem to be targeted at schools around and across the country. Talk about the presence of security around this vicinity. I've honestly not cited any security personnel aside from the security guards that are stationed, at the security post at the gate of the school. That's the security situation, for these areas and for these vicinities. And of course, we've heard and seen the directives by the president withdrawing police personnel from VIP. Hopefully, those police personnel will be deployed to areas such as this to ensure, that the vicinity is safe, aside the fact that children stay home temporarily to ensure a proper security strategy to guarantee their safety is put in place. So we can see our children resume. I mean, it's already in the news that over 20 million children are out of school. Having a situation such as this only complicates such issues. Back to you in the studio.
All right. Thank you so much, Sergey Ibrahim. Let's go back to the studio with you, Flosa Katugba, on the analysis. Front pages, security, insecurity, mass abductions here and there.
Yes. We've seen that just within a week, we've had several attacks targeted at schools and religious centers. It tells a certain, it's either a certain, wave of attack, to conflagrate our country once again after the kind of quietness we have witnessed. Even those people said that many kidnaps were underreported. But what we are seeing now is very worrisome and quite disturbing that within just 1 week we have these happenings. And now we just saw ISWAP taking 12 farmers.
Female farmers.
And then the other one targeted at Catholic school, and then the other. So if you look at the trend, it's just trying to send a message that there's still a lot of work to be done, and that the government must not be dragged into the politics of kidnapping and banditry, because there is politics of it. The government should focus on solution. The government should not get involved in bantering words with the opposition. They can do the politics, but they should focus on nipping the situation in the bud. And we should not criticize government if schools are closed, because a drastic disease calls for a drastic measure, and the government need to take action. It's not just about protecting the schools, it's about taking firm action to ensure that the sugar that attracts the ant is removed instead of trying to kill the ants.
Now, Mr. Akatuba,
so this is why they took that decision. So I don't think our worry and bother should be much about schools that are closing, but the fact that the government need to respond to this sudden surge in kidnapping that is embarrassing to our nation.
And talking about this sudden surge and uptick in insecurity, some analysts have suggested that it may be linked to President Trump designating Nigeria as a country of particular concern, that ever since he released that post on his Truth Social, we've seen this uptick. Do you think there's any link to it? Or it's just
there's no direct link.
Talk.
No, not a direct link, but just as the statement of world leaders can affect confidence, affect reactions even in the stock market and everywhere, his statement could also drive those who thought that, okay, that narrative can be accentuated. And that's why when they kidnap Catholic school, that can drive a message that Christians are under siege. The first one was Muslim students. Just to say, another set of people will say, we want to let you know that even Muslims are victims. So you are dealing with a multifaceted criminal systems. You have ISWAP, you have Boko Haram, you have headsmen, you have bandits. We just have what you call a complete breakdown of social order in the north for so long that is now beginning to haunt our country. There is a tolerance of criminality in that part of the world. It's either a tolerance or a certain lackadaisical, behavior towards conflicting a criminal element or criminal gangs. because the manner in which they operate.
But are you not making the mistake of using a brush to sweep an entire region? Because when you take the commentary of 1 or 3 or 4 politically exposed individuals and you use that as a basis to label your region, I think it's unfair. Because most of the victims of these violent extremist groups are also the people in that region. So why would you say
that's because
sort of sympathetic to
they flourish because of tolerance? They flourish because they are condoned. They flourish because they are seen as our children that should be rehabilitated. Let's be frank. In the Niger Delta, militants were coming to public events and introducing themselves confidently. I am a militant, and they will be hailed. In fact, people moved to war. So militants at that time were also tolerated in their regions. The Odua People's Congress also were tolerated in the Southwest. You don't have this kind of criminality, festering on for this long without tolerance. I've been to the North. The way we feel about insecurity in the South is not the way they see it. In fact, they don't feel as scared as we are. In fact, security measures are lowered. The banks are open. I was shocked that you have this level of insecurity and you allow vehicles to flow. And I tell you, we don't know what you are talking about. They don't feel the way we feel. They are not, because they are sentimental towards a lot of these things. I have a secondary school head teacher who was a member of my board in an NGO. He told me that some of his students became Boko Haram. They openly told him they were no longer coming to school. And some of them were very good in football. They were even top players in the team. They said even football was haram. And that such a boy, when they left, recruited other students, and they come to attack his school, and they will call him that we are coming. Take away yourself and anyone you love, and then you will evacuate the Christian teachers, and that attack will take place.
Okay. Let's talk about the way in which these girls, some of them have returned. It feels like we're having conflicting reports. Okay. We're hearing that 50 of these over 300 students that were kidnapped escaped. We're hearing also that we have been able to rescue them. Is it important that we get a clear picture of what happened? Yes, we are grateful, we are glad that the girls are reunited with their parents. We're praying for the safe return of the rest that are in captivity. But how important is it for us to get a clear narrative as to what happened in terms of did they escape or were they rescued by our armed forces? Was there ransom paid? Were there arrests being made? Were there terrorists that were neutralized?
Like I said, Nigeria is a big trading center. That's why you don't get the truth all the time. Now somebody's trying to gain out of this. So the most probable is that they escaped, because to manage 300 people could be Herculean, and these ones could have been abandoned on the course of movement, and they found their way out. Because if it was a rescue, you should have rescued a lot more and be able to tell us now we found where they are. So I see it as more of escape, because the church would not have told a lie. The church said they escaped.
All right.
And I believe what the church said.
All right, let's get a call from Mohammed. I still have a second part to that question. Mohammed is calling from Port Harcourt. Good morning, Mohammed. Please go ahead with your comment.
Good morning, ma'am. My name is Elijah Mohammed.
Yes, please. Thank you for calling. Please go ahead with your comment.
I think we need to put the right thing at the right time, and we don't need to play with our lives as people. When you bring in an architect to carry out survey of yourself as a person, you know that you're impacted on the suicide mission. How could a country like Nigeria will have a defense minister that has no military background, no security experience, an ordinary class teacher, and you think we'll get this right? I think we are just trying to play politics. We don't reward politicians with positions of security. Now look at the criminal element attacking the left, right, and center. You know their modus operandi. They have no enemies than Okada. Why wouldn't we, as a people, have authority and say we are banning the use of motorcycles from social access to social access a period of 1 year? We're going to switch off the network service of all those areas. Then those that we are using as human shield, we give them to support for 8 hours. But if you know you're not part of those criminal elements, leave those shows. And after a period of time, you know how to go after them. And every day, I think, because the insecurity has become a business, nobody is ready to do the needful. And even the military are not willing to go and exercise their full force, because they know when it happens to you, that's the end of it. So I think our board, Mr. President, by being a minor cabinet supplement. We don't say you should not reward people. And you don't reward people by giving a mere, maybe organizer the job of an architect. You give a mechanic the job of electrical. You know, we have problems every day. So I think Nigerians is going through a lot of insecurity that we deliberately cause it on ourselves. So I think I'll urge the president to do the need. So thank you and God bless.
Thank you very much, Mohammed, for joining us. We'll come back to reference that, but let's quickly connect with Bernard Akede this morning. Good morning, Bernard. Where are you? And can you bring us your report as well? All right. We'll come back to connect with Bernard. You heard Mohammed. Mohammed said he's obviously criticizing Bello Matawale's credentials, saying that he had no background in defense. He's a teacher, and you're bringing him, and he's suggesting a cabinet reshuffle. Do you agree with that? But before you respond to that, the second part of the question I was asking you earlier is, you say that it is most likely probable that they escaped as opposed to them being rescued. How important is it for the government to tell the truth of the current situation? So respond to that, then you can speak on...
in fact, it's critically important. If a government lies about a situation, then they will become embarrassed when the truth comes out. Any government that wants to be accountable and solve a problem must be upfront with the truth. In this case, the government, the military, the government might not have owned and made a declaration that they were rescued. I don't know if it's... I think the security apparatus and systems could be trying to gain some credit, and that is what they do. We've seen where police will say somebody escaped from Kenya, they say they captured or rescued the person. So for me, I stay with the statement of the Catholic. After all, they've interviewed their people. They said they've quietly reunited with their families.
No, President Tinubu says, I'm equally happy that 51 out of the missing students of the Catholic school in Niger State have been recovered.
Yes, the word recovered is very safe for him. It's a safe word. Okay. He didn't say rescue or escape. Recovered means we got them back. However, they came back. President has he has stated.
But doesn't that have any? Anyway, let's go to Bernard Akede. There's a question I have to ask as we wrap this. Bernard, good morning.
Good morning, guys. Good morning. It's good to hear from you.
All right. Go ahead. Where are you? We can see you in front of a school. Give us your report.
All right, so I'm currently in Kwara State, and this behind me is the Federal Government College, Ilorin. Like many other federal government colleges across the country, particularly in the northern part, this one too is shut down. It's a mixed secondary school, boys and girls. All of them have left the school. Information reaching us had it that by Friday, that was when the information reached the principal of the school and the authority of the school, basically. And then by Saturday morning, most of the students had evacuated the school and the members of staff as well. But not just only, Federal Government College in Ilorin here. There's another Federal Government College in Kwara State. That's in Umuaro. That's some 2 hours maybe, but more from where we are. That school equally has been evacuated right now. So those two Federal Government colleges in Kwara State, they do not have students in them. Very scanty staff population you would find in the school at the moment. However, if you don't have any business here, you will not be granted access into the school, just like how we have not been granted access into the school. Again, this talks about how insecurity has affected education in the country. And just to wrap that up, remember that we went to the village that was attacked. That's Eruku village. There are 6 schools in that village, 2 secondary schools, 4 primary schools. Since the attack, all the schools have been under lock and key. All the children have been at home, again emphasizing how insecurity affects education in the country.
Right, thank you, Bernard, for bringing us the update. We, of course, and as quickly as you can, what's the general sense in Kwara State? Is there anger at the government, or is it fear? What would you say is the general sense from the people that you've spoken with?
There's major concern amongst the citizens and indigenes of Kwara State. Like in many states where insecurity hits, it's been hitting the outskirts of the city center. So the villages where people are vulnerable and cannot protect themselves, this is where these are the places where these bandits, I call them spineless by the way, go in there, attack defenseless people. So there is where it's felt the most. We got to Eruku village and we could actually see, we could feel it there. The people were living in fear, and then besides the fact that they had security presence, they now have to protect themselves. So you see so many people moving around with Dane guns, whatever means of protection they can give themselves. But it's different in the city center here. Here the people are majorly concerned because they have their relatives back in the local communities and the villages, but it's literally business as usual here in the city. However, there are concerns again because cases of insecurity, if it affects one, it affects all.
Thank you for bringing us update. Do stay safe. We'll hear from you in subsequent shows. And let's come back to the show now. Reshuffling of the cabinet, yes or no?
Well, no, that is not.
Not in general reshuffling of the cabinet. The defense ministers don't have a military background, and the NSA also.
That is the truth about the governor. But that governor was in a very tough state during this period of banditry, and you realize that most of the kidnapping at that time originated from the criminal mining activities in those areas, and he had dealt with them and dealt with this situation for long. The president knows that.
Was he successful? Because he didn't win a second term.
The president uses wisdom in appointing his ministers, and sometimes he would have looked at it and said, in the past we've had men and women who had military background or military training, and yet we have this level of insecurity bequeathed to him. So he must have thought that, let me change my own game. Whether it's working for him or not, it remains to be seen, because this is still in the game. The game is not over.
But he's changed service chiefs.
I know, but that is also because the minister is working with him. If there is a battle, and even a boxer, and it's a 15-round fight, he could have a fall in the fight, or he could be knocked down and stand up again. Doesn't mean that the fight is over. So that this spike has happened is not enough to disqualify him, because he's kept the country relatively safe in the first 2 years.
Okay.
So,
right. Thank you very much, Mr. Katuba, for joining us. Thank you for audience. Mokunye Chukwemeka, Chuka Ochiama, Naimeka Okpoto, Joshua Okparanze, thank you very much for your comments. We look forward to seeing you engaging with more of our content. As we'll be back again tomorrow. Do have a wonderful rest of the day. I am Olive MOD.
And I'm Johansson. Thanking you for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow.